By the sweltering fields of California's Central Valley, a young woman's life was violently stolen in the summer of 1996. Debbie Dorian, 22, fresh out of college and brimming with dreams, was found beaten and strangled in her own apartment, a home that had once echoed with her laughter. Decades passed. Leads ran cold. Yet, a whisper in the shadows, a DNA match from a distant town, and the power of genetic genealogy finally unveiled a predator long hidden. Nicky Stain, a man whose hands had terrorized countless young women, was brought to justice. Nearly 30 years later, Debbie's family could finally honor her life, and a dark chapter in Fresno's history closed, but not without leaving scars that would never fade. By the time the sun dipped low over the Central Valley, the heat still pressed against the golden fields. Almond trees swayed, their leaves whispering secrets to the wind, carrying the calm that belied the violence waiting to unfold. It was August 1996, and the air shimmered like liquid sunlight over Fresno's quiet streets. In a small, modest apartment complex tucked between endless orchards and the distant hum of freeways, 22-year-old Debbie Dorian prepared to step into adulthood. Debbie was no ordinary young woman. She had just earned her degree in economics from Fresno State University. Her future stretched before her like the Sierra Nevada mountains, peaks of promise, valleys of opportunity. Friends describe her laugh as contagious, her energy magnetic. She loved books, music, and late-night walks when the city fell asleep, but alive all at once. She was the kind of person who made the mundane sparkle, a borrowed scarf, a shared coffee, a careless joke. She could light a room without even trying. Her apartment reflected her nature. Neatly arranged, warm tones, photographs of family and friends decorating the walls. A small potted plant sat by the windowsill, its green leaves drinking the last rays of the sun. Debbie had plans, a career in finance, travel, maybe even graduate school. Each day was measured in possibilities, and she lived it fully, fiercely, unaware that shadows were beginning to gather. It started with small things, doors left ajar, noises at odd hours. At first, Debbie dismissed them, attributing the sounds to the old building settling in the heat. But over time, a sense of unease began to creep in, a whisper at the edge of awareness. Friends noticed she grew cautious, double-checking locks, scanning the street when she walked home. She never said why. Perhaps she didn't even know herself. Perhaps the danger had already brushed past her life, unnoticed, a ghost in the folds of her everyday routine. Her father, a man who worked tirelessly to provide stability, often visited. He'd bring lunch, laugh at her jokes, marvel at the way she balanced independence with warmth. On that fateful day in August, he had planned a simple drop-in, nothing extraordinary, just a father checking in on his daughter. But when he reached her apartment, Debbie was gone. The door, slightly ajar, creaked as he nudged it open, and in that moment, a father's world shattered. The scene was chaos incarnate. Furniture overturned, drawers emptied, walls scarred with the frantic evidence of a struggle. And in the center, Debbie, her body still lifeless, a life extinguished in its prime. The smell of blood and fear lingered, thick as fog. Investigators would later describe the brutality. Blunt force, strangulation, evidence of a desperate fight. The apartment whispered of terror, a story frozen in time, waiting for justice to arrive decades later. Detectives arrived, methodical and precise. Crime scene technicians moved with solemn rhythm, collecting fibers, fingerprints, DNA, a trail left behind by a predator who believed he had erased his presence. But the threads were thin, leads evaporated. Acquaintances were questioned, alibis examined, but nothing fit. The case began to chill on a shelf, yellowing with time, a silent reminder of a young woman taken too soon. Yet even in the darkest moments, light persisted. Debbie's mother, Sara, refused to let silence win. Every anniversary, she lit a candle. Every birthday, she whispered her daughter's name into the quiet night. "She was my light," Sara said, her voice cracking like dry earth beneath the summer sun. Her grief was profound, but so was her resolve. Fresno streets may have moved on. Its orchards may have flourished. But for Sara, time had stopped the day Debbie was stolen. Beneath the surface, a pattern waited to be revealed. Around the valley, whispers told assaults in nearby towns. Young women left alone, frightened, scarred. At first, investigators did not connect the dots, but the seeds of a predator's trail were already sown, invisible to all but the most careful eyes. Each crime, each attack, would eventually form a map, leading to the one man who had hidden in plain sight, Nicky Stain. For now, though, the Central Valley slept under the late summer sky, unaware of the darkness that had already visited one of its daughters. The breeze carried the scent of almond blooms in distant traffic, mingling with the faint, lingering echo of a young woman's laughter. That laughter, once so bright, was silenced, but it would not be forgotten. The chapter of Debbie's life that ended in tragedy was only the beginning of the story that would unfold decades later, a story of forensic innovation, relentless determination, and the unyielding pursuit of justice. Shadows had fallen over the valley, but in the hands of those who refused to let time bury the truth, those shadows would one day be illuminated. Pause for effect. A soft, haunting piano chord lingers. Before we move to the next chapter, a small request to you, our listener. If the story has moved you, if Debbie's life and fight for justice resonate in your heart, please consider helping this channel grow. Share, subscribe, comment. Your support allows us to bring these stories to light, to honor the victims, and to remind the world that even in darkness, the truth can shine. Thank you for listening, for caring, and for being part of this journey. Your presence here is a beautiful testament to empathy and curiosity. The sun rose over Fresno like a reluctant witness, casting long shadows across streets that had once seemed ordinary. In the apartment where Debbie Dorian had taken her last breath, police continued their meticulous work. Crime scene tape fluttered in the wind, a stark barrier between the world of the living and the remnants of a nightmare. Detectives crouched over photographs, taking note of every overturned chair, every spatter of blood, every fiber clinging stubbornly to a carpet thread. In this quiet, they hunted for a whisper of the man who had stolen a life. Forensic specialists moved with a precision born from years of practice. Each fingerprint, each trace of DNA, was cataloged, stored, and analyzed. In the center of it all, Debbie's life seemed to pulse faintly through the evidence. A notebook with carefully penciled plans, a diary half filled with dreams, a bracelet she had worn since childhood. She had lived fully, and now her essence was scattered, hidden in the smallest threads. The detectives faced a cruel paradox. The intruder had left a trail, yet the trail led nowhere. Friends and acquaintances were questioned, revealing little more than routine schedules and casual alibis. A neighbor reported seeing a man loitering near Debbie's complex days before, someone unfamiliar, someone whose eyes seemed to measure the life within her apartment. But the description was vague, middle-aged, unremarkable, the kind of face that could vanish into any crowd. Nothing concrete. Yet as investigators combed through the apartment, one detail refused to be ignored: the precision with which the crime had been carried out. This was not the work of a burglar seeking valuables. Drawers were rifled, yes, but expensive electronics were left untouched. Jewelry remained in a box, untouched. Whoever had entered had one purpose, and that purpose was chilling in its simplicity. Debbie had been hunted, stalked, and ultimately confronted with lethal intent. The Fresno Police Department, small but resolute, began reaching out to surrounding counties. Reports surfaced of assaults that mirrored Debbie's in their brutality. Young women, alone, isolated, attacked with both force and cunning. One in particular caught attention: a sexual assault in Visalia, just an hour south, where a young woman had been ambushed late at night. A methodical attack eerily similar to the one that ended Debbie's life. At the time, investigators had treated each case as separate, isolated incidents. But the DNA from Debbie's crime scene hinted at something else. A pattern waiting to emerge. A predator moving through the valley like a shadow, leaving a trail of fear in his wake. Detectives began to piece together what few clues existed. A fiber lifted from Debbie's clothing matched fibers found at the Visalia assault scene. The angle of the wounds, the precise way the attacker had overpowered his victims, the subtle marks left behind, all spoke of a single hand, a single mind. Yet still, no name surfaced. Every lead twisted back into uncertainty. Every suspect's alibi seemed airtight. Months passed. The case file thickened with reports, interviews, and photographs, but the predator remained invisible, a phantom haunting the valley's edges. Meanwhile, Sara Lovin clung to fragments of hope. She met with detectives regularly, offering any details she could recall, even the smallest impressions from phone calls or texts. Her grief was palpable, but it carried purpose. "I will not let her death be in vain," she told them, her voice trembling yet resolute. Her persistence reminded investigators of behind the evidence, behind the DNA and photographs. There was a family aching for justice, demanding the truth. The first real breakthrough came unexpectedly. A new forensic analyst, recently trained in emerging DNA techniques, re-examined the samples collected from Debbie's apartment. It was meticulous work, tedious and slow. Yet among the tiny fragments of genetic material, a connection appeared, a partial profile that did not match any known offender in Fresno's database. The discovery sent a ripple through the department. This was more than a name. It was a thread, a lifeline, a chance to trace the invisible predator. But even with this lead, questions mounted. How had the perpetrator chosen Debbie? Had he known her, or had she been a victim of pure chance? The apartment, the neighborhood, the seemingly ordinary life she led, it all seemed innocent, ordinary, fragile. And yet, in those very ordinarinesses, danger had crept unnoticed. The detectives began mapping out the attacks in surrounding towns, looking for patterns in timing, geography, and victim profile. Slowly, a picture of the predator began to emerge. Methodical, opportunistic, and terrifyingly patient. The public, meanwhile, was gripped by fear and speculation. Fresno's local papers ran cautious headlines. Young woman murdered in apartment. Police seek clues in Central Valley slaying. Community members grew anxious. Mothers tightened grips on their children. Young women altered routines, glances over shoulders becoming instinctive. The predator's presence was invisible, but its shadow stretched wide, a constant reminder that evil often wears a mask of the ordinary. Months turned into years, and the case began to chill on the shelves. Leads dried, tips went cold, and the detective team saw colleagues retire, replaced by new faces unfamiliar with the delicate threads of the investigation. But the seeds planted in those early months, the DNA samples, the fiber matches, the obsessive cataloging of every detail, would prove vital decades later. The case was far from forgotten, and the predator had yet to realize that time itself could betray him. Even as the valley moved forward, fields harvested, freeways expanded, lives continued. The detectives and the family refused to let the story die. In quiet offices and dimly lit rooms, the evidence waited like embers under ash. And somewhere, far from Fresno, the man who had terrorized the valley assumed he had escaped notice, that his secrets would remain buried. He had no inkling that science was advancing, that genetic genealogy would soon turn the tide, that the hunter could become the hunted. By now, the investigation had become more than a pursuit of justice. It was a narrative of persistence, of meticulous observation, of human determination confronting the darkness. Each fiber, each fingerprint, each overlooked detail was a testament to patience. And while the predator had chosen his victims, investigators would choose him. The Central Valley would not forget Debbie Dorian, and the valley's silence would one day be broken. Before we move forward, a heartfelt word to you, our listener. Thank you for walking these shadows with us, for listening with care, and for honoring Debbie's story through your attention. If you wish to help bring justice to more untold stories, please consider supporting this channel. Share it, subscribe, leave a comment, or simply spread the word. Each action you take helps us illuminate the darkness, honor the lives lost, and remind the world that every story deserves to be told. Your presence here is a light in the shadows, and for that, we are deeply grateful. Years passed, and the case of Debbie Dorian remained unsolved. Fresno's streets moved on, the orchards flourished, and life pressed forward, but the memory of her death lingered like an invisible weight. The police had collected mountains of evidence, meticulously cataloged, yet the trail had gone cold. The fibers of fingerprints, the partial DNA profile, all hints pointing to a faceless predator, a ghost who had vanished into the valley's shadows. By 2018, science had caught up with the crime. Forensic technology had advanced far beyond what anyone in 1996 could have imagined. Detectives revisited Debbie's case with fresh eyes and sharper tools. The partial DNA profile, once a tantalizing yet untraceable clue, was fed into the national databases again, this time with a revolutionary twist: genetic genealogy. It was a method pioneered in the hunt for the Golden State Killer, a way to trace unknown DNA through distant relatives, building family trees backward until a suspect could be identified. The process was painstaking. Investigators sifted through public ancestry records, online family trees, obituaries, and old census data. Every distant cousin, every unexpected connection became a piece of the puzzle. Weeks turned into months. Patterns emerged, then dissolved and re-emerged. And in the midst of the painstaking labor, one name began to stand out: Nicky Stain, a man whose life had been carefully obscured, whose movements had gone largely unnoticed. Stain had been born and raised in California, a drifter who had slipped through the cracks of society. He had no remarkable career, no public presence, and no known criminal record that could immediately tie him to Debbie or the assaults in Visalia. Yet the DNA spoke clearly. The same genetic thread ran through Debbie's murder, the Visalia assaults, and several other incidents in the valley over the years. It was as though he had left a signature, a mark hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to uncover it. Detectives began to dig into Stain's history. He had moved frequently, working odd jobs, never staying long enough to attract attention. Neighbors remembered little. An unremarkable man, polite enough but distant, yet reports surfaced of minor complaints over the years. Prowling, suspicious behavior, moments where young women felt watched or followed. No single complaint had been enough to connect him to any crime at the time, and so each instance had faded into the background. Only now, with DNA evidence in hand, did the pieces coalesce into a disturbing pattern. The investigation took on a new urgency. Detectives mapped out his movements over decades, tracing him back to locations near the crimes. They reconstructed timelines, cross-referenced old police reports, and examined every past lead that had previously gone nowhere. Suddenly, events that seemed isolated became connected, forming a chilling narrative of premeditation, obsession, and opportunity. Each victim had been alone. Each assault occurred at night. Each attack was calculated. But something had gone wrong with Debbie. Debbie had fought back. Her resistance, her courage, had provoked a lethal response. The man who had taken so many women's sense of safety, in her case, had escalated to violence that could not be contained. It was a turning point investigators had long sought, a glimpse into the mind of someone who stalked, terrorized, and ultimately killed to satisfy an unknown compulsion. The connection to Visalia and other assaults painted a broader picture. Debbie was not an isolated case, but part of a string of crimes that spanned years and towns. With the genetic evidence solidifying, detectives moved cautiously. Stain was living a quiet life in Northern California, distant from the Central Valley, unassuming, seemingly ordinary. No one would have suspected him of being a predator who had haunted the valley for decades. Surveillance was put in place, background checks completed, and warrants prepared. It was a delicate dance. One misstep could allow him to vanish again. The day of the arrest arrived with an almost surreal calm. Stain was taken into custody without incident. He did not resist. His face remained expressionless, eyes blank. Yet in that silence, investigators felt the weight of decades of terror lifted slightly from the community he had once haunted. During questioning, he confessed to the Visalia assaults, his voice flat, detached, yet he refused to discuss Debbie Dorian. He remained a locked window, shuttered against the one crime that had haunted Fresno for so long. Prosecutors built a case that wove together decades of evidence. Debbie's murder, the linked assaults in Visalia, the pattern of stalking, and the genetic trail that led unambiguously to Stain. They demonstrated his methodical behavior, the precision of his attacks, and the way he selected victims. The narrative was stark, brutal, and undeniable. Finally, nearly 3 decades after her death, justice began to crystallize. For Sara Lovin, the revelation was a mixture of relief and sorrow. Relief that the man who had stolen her daughter's life had been identified, that the valley's shadow had a face. Sorrow that it had taken so long, that so many years had passed without answers. Yet through it all, she maintained a remarkable grace, a quiet defiance against the darkness that had entered her life. Debbie's light can't be dimmed, she told reporters, her voice steady, unwavering. It was a truth she had carried alone for years, now shared with the world. The story of Debbie Dorian became a testament to the relentless pursuit of truth. It was proof that even when decades pass, when evidence grows cold and memories fade, determination and innovation can bring justice. The predator who had once moved unseen, whose shadow had stretched over countless lives, could no longer hide. Science and persistence had illuminated what the passage of time could not erase. The truth, in the Central Valley, the air seemed lighter in the aftermath of the arrest. Fields stretched out under the sun, the orchards flourished, and yet the valley remained forever changed. The name of Debbie Dorian became more than a headline or a case number. It became a story of resilience, of hope, and of the unyielding will of those who refused to let darkness remain unchecked. The investigation was far from simple. It demanded patience, intelligence, and courage. It required detectives willing to think differently, scientists pushing the boundaries of their discipline, and a family unwilling to surrender to silence. And when the threads of DNA finally led to Stain, it was a vindication not only of law enforcement, but of the principle that even the smallest clues, preserved carefully over decades, can illuminate the deepest shadows. If Debbie's story has touched your heart, please help us grow this channel. Share, subscribe, and engage. Every action helps us honor victims, uncover hidden stories, and remind the world that darkness cannot hide forever. Your presence here brings light to these shadows, and for that, we are profoundly grateful. By the time the trial began, nearly 3 decades had passed since Debbie Dorian's life was stolen. Fresno, once again, held its collective breath, but this time with a mixture of anticipation and relief. The man accused, Nicky Stain, had been brought from obscurity into the glaring light of justice. A predator whose shadow had stretched across valleys and towns was finally standing before the law. His anonymity stripped away by science, persistence, and decades of unanswered questions. Courtroom proceedings were deliberate, almost ceremonial in their weight. Each piece of evidence carried decades of accumulated tension. The DNA samples, the fiber matches, the witness statements from long-forgotten neighbors, and the meticulous reconstruction of Stain's movements. Prosecutors painted a picture not only of a man who had attacked, terrorized, and ultimately murdered, but of a predator who had hidden in plain sight, exploiting the ordinary routines of unsuspecting young women. Testimonies brought the past to life. Forensic experts explained genetic genealogy in precise, unemotional terms, outlining how distant relatives led investigators to Stain and ultimately tied him to Debbie's murder. Crime scene analysts described the chaos they'd encountered in her apartment. The overturned furniture, the signs of struggle, the haunting echoes of violence frozen in time. Each detail was methodically presented. Yet beneath the courtroom formality, the horror of what had occurred decades earlier remained palpable. Sara took the stand. Her voice was steady but filled with emotion, the kind of quiet courage forged in years of grief. She spoke not only of Debbie's life, her laughter, her intelligence, her dreams, but also the relentless passage of time that had forced a mother to wait for answers. Debbie's life was full, Sara said, eyes glistening, and she deserved justice. I never stopped hoping, even when the silence was deafening. Her words struck deep, not as a plea, but as a declaration. The light of Debbie's life could never be extinguished by fear or time. The defense attempted to challenge the evidence, questioning the reliability of genetic genealogy, probing gaps in witness recollections, and highlighting the decades that had passed since the crime. Yet the case against Stain was unyielding. His DNA was indisputable. His pattern of assaults created an unmistakable signature. And as prosecutors meticulously reconstructed the timeline of his movements, the defense's arguments began to unravel. The courtroom felt less like a debate and more like a slow unveiling of a truth that had refused to remain hidden. During cross-examination, Stain remained eerily composed. He confessed to the assaults in Visalia, his voice flat, detached, almost clinical in its monotony. But when asked about Debbie Dorian, he clammed up, eyes distant, expression blank. He revealed nothing. The silence was chilling. In that moment, the court recognized the incomprehensible detachment of a man who could commit unspeakable acts yet feel no remorse for the one crime that had haunted a community for decades. Outside the courtroom, the city held its collective tension. News of the trial reached every corner of Fresno, and beyond. Local media followed every development. Interviews with experts and family members painting a portrait of a man whose evil had been subtle, patient, and devastatingly methodical. Community members reflected on the time that had passed, on the young women who had been affected, and on the persistence of those who refused to let Debbie's story fade. Inside, the trial revealed not only the mechanics of crimes, but also the emotional toll of delayed justice. Witnesses recounted decades of fear, speculation, and unanswered questions. Investigators spoke of sleepless nights, the meticulous re-examination of old evidence, and profound responsibility of holding on to hope when every lead seemed to vanish. The narrative became as much about the pursuit of truth as it was about the crime itself. The prosecution emphasized the danger Stain had posed, not only to Debbie but to other young women across the valley. They described the pattern, the stalking, the calculated attacks. Each detail underscored a frightening truth. This was not a one-time act of violence, but the work of a man who had preyed on the vulnerable, who had moved through ordinary streets leaving fear in his wake. Debbie's death had been the culmination of a long, hidden string of terror. As the trial progressed, the evidence weighed heavily on all who listened. It was a story of light and shadow, the light of forensic innovation, of determined detectives, of a mother who refused to surrender hope, the shadow of a predator, patient and hidden, moving unseen among ordinary lives. Each day of testimony reinforced a chilling reality. Evil can linger quietly, unnoticed, yet justice can follow just as patiently, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Finally, after days of deliberation, the gavel fell. Nikki Stain pleaded guilty to Debbie's murder and the linked assaults. The courtroom was silent, the air heavy with decades of tension finally finding release. He was sentenced to life without parole, a term that acknowledged the irreparable harm he had caused while ensuring he would never again pose a threat. Justice, delayed but unwavering, had been delivered. For Sara Lovin, the verdict was bittersweet. Relief mingled with the ache of years lost, memories unmade, and milestones Debbie would never reach. Yet there was also vindication, a recognition that her daughter's life had mattered, that her story had been heard, and that the predator who had eluded accountability for decades was finally confined. Debbie's spirit lives on, Sara said after the trial, and now the valley can breathe a little easier, knowing the truth has been told. The case became a symbol of persistence, of the power of science, of the resilience of a grieving family, and of the tireless work of law enforcement. It demonstrated that time is not always an enemy. When paired with innovation and unwavering dedication, it can reveal what was once thought hidden. For the Central Valley, for Debbie's friends and family, and for every young woman who had been affected, the trial was both an ending and a beginning. The closure of a dark chapter and the affirmation that justice, though long delayed, could never be denied. Even in the aftermath, the story left a mark on Fresno. Conversations about safety, about awareness, about the subtle signs of predation became more urgent. Parents, friends, and neighbors reflected on the vigilance required in a world where danger can hide behind ordinary faces. Debbie's life became a lens through which the community understood both vulnerability and resilience. The trial closed, but the echoes remained. The name Nikki Stain, once anonymous, was now synonymous with both terror and accountability. Debbie Dorian's story, once a fragment of tragedy, became a narrative of hope and the enduring pursuit of truth. And in the hearts of those who had waited decades for justice, there was a quiet understanding. No darkness, however patient, can outlast the resolve of those committed to light. If Debbie's story has touched you, please help us grow this channel. Share, subscribe, comment, and spread the word. Each act of support ensures these stories are remembered, that victims are honored, and that truth continues to shine through the shadows. Your engagement is a gift, a way to keep Debbie's light alive. And for that, we are deeply grateful. The trial ended, the gavel had fallen, and Nikki Stain was finally confined to a life behind walls. Yet for Fresno, for Debbie's family, and for those who watched the years of silence stretch on, the story did not simply conclude. Justice had been served, but the echoes of her absence lingered, whispering in empty rooms, in sunlit orchards, in streets where her laughter had once mingled with summer air. Debbie Dorian's life, though tragically brief, left an indelible mark. She had been more than a statistic, More than a name in a case file, friends remembered her fierce intelligence, her warmth, and her unwavering optimism. She had dreamed of a future unbound by limits, a life full of possibility, of accomplishments yet unseen. Those dreams were stolen, yet their memory became a beacon for those who refused to let darkness claim her entirely. Her mother, Sara, carried the weight of grief with a strength few could comprehend. For nearly 30 years, she had kept Debbie's memory alive in small rituals. A candle lit on her birthday, stories told to anyone who would listen, quiet act of remembrance woven into daily life. After the trial, Sara's focus shifted, not to vengeance, but to preservation. She shared Debbie's story as a testament to resilience, to the pursuit of truth, and to the unwavering power of love. The community, once rattled by fear, began to see the case not only as a tragedy, but as a triumph of persistence and innovation. Detectives who worked tirelessly on the case reflected on the decades-long journey with a mixture of pride and humility. The combination of human determination, careful observation, and scientific advancement had finally revealed the predator's identity. It was proof that even in the darkest corners, justice can be patient and unyielding. Debbie's story also became a lesson in awareness. Young women across the valley, their parents, and friends learned the importance of vigilance, the subtle signs of danger, and the value of reporting what might seem inconsequential. Her death, while horrific, catalyzed conversations about safety and empowerment. It was a painful legacy, but one that ensured her life would continue to influence and protect others. In the years following Stain's arrest and conviction, Debbie's family dedicated themselves to ensuring that her memory was not confined to sorrow. Scholarships were established in her name, supporting young women pursuing education in economics and social sciences. Local organizations spoke of her life, not just her death, emphasizing her ambition, her compassion, and her vitality. Through these acts, Debbie's light, once extinguished too soon, continued to illuminate paths for others. Forensic science, too, learned from her case. The successful use of genealogy in solving a decades-old murder underscored the importance of innovation in criminal investigations. Police departments across California and beyond studied the methods used in Debbie's case, understanding that evidence, no matter how old, could reveal the truth when combined with persistence, patience, and cutting-edge science. Debbie's death, horrific as it was, became a catalyst for progress, a turning point in modern criminal investigation techniques. Yet even with all this, the emotional weight remained. Friends remembered the small details, her laughter echoing to the corridors of Fresno State, the way she would stay up late studying yet still find time to offer encouragement, the quiet determination in her eyes when she spoke of her future. Debbie had been ordinary in the most extraordinary ways, a young woman full of life, unknowingly standing against the darkness that had been creeping toward her. Her mother often spoke of the importance of remembering life over loss. Debbie's joy was infectious, Sara would say. We honor her not by dwelling in sorrow, but by celebrating the brightness she brought into every moment. It was a philosophy to help guide those left behind, transforming grief into action, despair into advocacy, and tragedy into lasting impact. The Central Valley, once a backdrop for fear, now holds Debbie's story as a symbol of resilience. The fields, the orchards, the quiet streets, they carry the memory of her life and the reminder that even when evil lurks unseen, truth has the power to shine through. Her story reminds all who hear that justice, no matter how delayed, can arrive, and that the courage of those who refuse to give up is a force that darkness cannot overcome. As Fresno continues to move forward, Debbie's legacy extends beyond the courtroom and beyond the confines of the valley. Her life and the pursuit of justice in her name resonate as a call to vigilance, to care, and to action. It is a story that blends tragedy with hope, loss with resilience, and sorrow with the undeniable strength of human determination. Debbie Dorian may no longer walk the streets she loved, may no longer laugh in sunlit rooms, but her presence endures. In the hearts of those who knew her, in the community she left behind, and in the broader narrative of justice achieved against all odds, she remains a light, a beacon of courage, memory, and enduring human spirit. Her mother, friends, and the community remind us that while darkness can visit, it cannot hold sway forever. And while Nicky Stain is confined, his crime serving as a stark reminder of human depravity, Debbie's life illustrates the resilience, the courage, and the love that persists even in the aftermath of unimaginable loss. Her story, told and retold, ensures she will not be forgotten. For all of us, Debbie's life and death are a powerful reminder. The fight for justice may be long, the path treacherous, but truth and resilience always endure. It is a legacy that inspires, teaches, and protects, and one that demands we never turn away when the world calls for courage. Before we close, a heartfelt message to you, our listener. Thank you for following Debbie's journey, for bearing witness to her story, and for honoring her memory through your attention. If her life and the pursuit of justice resonate with you, please help this channel grow. Share, subscribe, comment, and support us in bringing more stories like hers to light. Every action you take ensures that victims are remembered, that truth is pursued, and that light continues to shine in the darkest corners. Your presence here is a gift, and together we can keep these stories alive, honoring the lives that inspire us all.